Hello everyone, my name is CJ and this is the first in a series of videos where I will be going through puzzles from the World Puzzle Federation Puzzle Grand Prix. I will put a link various places and perhaps explain the details of how the competition works in a different video, but for now I want to get right to the puzzle in case that's all you're here to see. I do want to mention that this will be me explaining how I personally solved the puzzle for the first time, which I recorded in a time-lapse video. It is by no means the optimal solving method, although that could be something to consider for the future. So without further ado, 2020 Round 5, Puzzle 1. This puzzle is called Password Path, with the creator listed in brackets and the instructions say, find a path that starts at the upper left letter, ends at the lower right letter, goes through each letter once, and repeats only the password given below the grid. The path may only travel in the 8 standard directions and may not intersect itself. The small digits are only used for entering your answer. And then for your answer, enter the order in which the digits appear on the path, which for the example is 1, 4, 6, 3, 5, 8, 0, 9, 7, 2. So if you found this kind of puzzle in a generic puzzle book, you'd probably just go ahead and start from the beginning, which is what I tried to do, but in this competition, puzzles are almost never that easy, so I didn't get very far. Based off of the video, I think I then looked for other T's with only one O to go to, even though this doesn't make sense, as you will see later if you don't already. And then I did what I should have done at the very beginning, which is to consider which letter connections are probably going to be easiest to find. Notice that O's are going to make up 40% of the letters in this puzzle, so any consecutive letters you try to connect that include an O are very likely to have other options nearby. However, KY is the only pair that has no O. And as a result, these end up being very easy to determine. Just make sure you don't use a letter that is already in a Kentucky pairing. Since I was over at the end of the path, I did a few connections working backwards that were easy to determine, and then started to consider the T's. Every T except the initial one has an O both before and after it in the sequence of letters, and relatedly, all O's connect to a T on one side. So, if a T has only 2 O options that are not already on a T, you can connect it to both of them. If an O has only 1 T option, you can connect them as well, and it doesn't matter yet whether it's the first or second O in the word. Note that if any letter has 1 connection determined, it's still okay for another letter to connect to it. But since there can only be 1 path in and 1 path out, as soon as there are 2 connections to a letter, you know nothing else can go to it. Here, based on the order of the letters already connected on one side of this O, the other connection has to be to a Y. Considering this Y, it has 3 different O's it can go to, but 2 of them would immediately cut off another letter. And additionally, this one puts the beginning sequence of letters in the wrong order. This T currently has 2 different options for its remaining connection. If we consider the sequence of letters again, on either side of an OTO set is 1 Y and 1 K. But if the diagonal was used to complete this OTO, neither of the O's would be able to connect to a K. I then connected a few more O's with only 1 Y or K option, as every O needs to connect to one or the other. Here, I am considering if one of this O's possible T connections causes a closed loop. It turns out the diagonal does, after thinking far enough ahead. Following from the other side of the O, this next O must lead to a K. The only option for this is up, but this closes a loop surrounded here in red. Since a path from the start to the end cannot get to this loop of letters, the blue diagonal cannot be correct. If this K went to the right, this would complete a path from start to end now, but without including some of the letters. So you know what I said about this not being the optimal solution? Well, this is a really good example. I just now made this connection. All K's have to go to an O, and this is the only option for this K. Meaning I could have drawn this at the very beginning with no other lines, and it would have prevented me from needing to do some of the more complicated steps that I talked about. Oh well. And that does it for this puzzle. Based on my start and stop times for actually working on the puzzle, I completed it in 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Since the puzzle is worth 25 points, that is a rate of about 3.3 points per minute. This is a little better than my personal average for all WPF puzzles, which, to be clear, is nowhere near the rate of the best solvers, who can achieve 10 points per minute, but it is enough to put me in the top half of people who attempt this competition. My girlfriend Amanda also recorded a time-lapse video of herself completing this puzzle as part of the competition. She started with miscellaneous connections, including a string of 7 in the bottom left, but she also went for all of the KY lines fairly early on. Also, that KO line I was just talking about that I could have made at the beginning, she actually drew that while it could still be helpful for future steps. Only at the very end does she deal with the closed loop issue I mentioned, which is much easier to determine when it's the only thing there is to test. She also likes to be thorough and write down the official answer in addition to submitting it online. Alright, that will do it for this video. If you solved this puzzle, let me know if there's anything you did differently down in the comments. And of course, feel free to hit the applicable buttons if you want to find out when I upload future videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon to talk about Puzzle 2!